Hi, this is PG of PG's Lumacy. In this tutorial, we will be making the wise men for the Rainbow Loom Nativity Series. We will be making 3 figures for the wise man in the series. And for the first figure, we will be using navy blue, ocean blue, and purple for the apparel. And for the skin, we will be using neon orange bands. And for the other wise men, we will be using the caramel colored bands and the burgundy colored bands for the skin. These are all original Rainbow Loom solid color bands. We will complete this project in a single Rainbow Loom, but we will do that in multiple steps. The loom will be in the standard offset configuration, and the arrow will be pointing towards you. And we will be placing bands from the top going towards the bottom. Before we work on the main piece for the figure, we will first prepare the arms. Please take note of the number of bands used for each step and the order in which the bands are placed on the loom. 2 navy blue bands on the topmost left pins. 2 navy blue bands in a diagonal from this pin on the left to the center. 2 navy blue bands also in a diagonal from the center pin to the pin on the right. Now, let us use a single navy blue band on these pins and another single navy blue band on these center pins. A diagonal band from this left pin to the center pin, and a vertical band on the left side pin. Now we will place a single ocean blue band on these pins from the center to this pin on the right. This band has to be placed first, and then a second ocean blue band will be placed in a diagonal from this left pin to this center pin. Now we place 2 neon orange bands vertically on these right side pins, and we cap this pin with a single neon orange band wrapped 4 times. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And we also cap this bands with an ocean blue single band wrapped 4 times as well. 1, 2, 3, and 4. So that is the layout for the arms. You might want to pause the video and check to see if you have the same layout. Now let us loop the bands. You start with these neon orange bands and you go into the cap band and grab the double bands underneath and loop them to the forward pin. And then we also go to this other side and take note that there are 2 bands on this pin. This ocean blue band and this navy blue band. We are only grabbing this ocean blue band. So we go into the cap band and then grab the ocean blue single band underneath and loop it to this pin on the center. Then we grab the ocean blue band and loop it to the pin on the right. Now we will loop these bands. Let's start with this single band underneath the cap band. We loop it to the forward pin. And for these bands, there are two of them attached to this pin. We look for the band that is on top, and in my case it would be this band. So we grab it from underneath and loop it to this pin. And we do that for the other band as well. And then we grab these double bands and loop them to the center pin. Now let us loop this single band on the left and the double bands from the center also to the left, and then loop these double bands. And now we secure this end loops with a toothpick, and then we get this entire piece off the loom. And that would be the piece for the arm. I have made another piece for the other arm, and I'll set these aside until I'm ready to attach them to the main body. We are now ready to place the bands for the main figure, and all the bands that we will be placing vertically and diagonally for this step will be double bands. Please take note of the color that we are using for each step. We start with double purple bands on the topmost pins placed diagonally. Okay, and then we add a row of purple double bands. That will be the headgear for our figure. Now for the face area, we will be using the neon orange bands. Again, they are double bands. So we place a row of these neon orange double bands. Then when we get to the chin area, we will place light gray double bands to form the beard for our figure. And we will place the diagonal bands before we place the center band. So we place diagonal bands on the left side, and then another pair of diagonal bands on the right side, and then we place the vertical neon orange bands for the center, and that will form the head portion. For the neck, we add double ocean blue bands. For the shoulder area, we will be using double navy blue bands, and they will be placed diagonally from the left pin to the center pin on the base of the neck. Let's do that for the other side. Now for the main body, we will be using two colors. One color for the center pins, which will resemble a tunic on our figure. And for the side pins, we will be placing another color that will resemble the robe for our wise man. And for this wise man, I am using ocean blue for the center pins. I will be placing a chain of 8 double bands for the center pins. Then for the sides, we will be placing a chain of navy blue double bands, 8 double bands on one side. Let's do that again for the left side. Now let us place the horizontal bands that will hold the pieces together and define the shape of our figure. We place double loop bands on the head or the face area, and to form a double loop band we get a single band. We twist it to a figure 8, fold it to itself, and then we form a double loop band, and we place that on the corresponding pins. Let's do that again for this row of pins. Twist, fold, and you form a double loop, and you place on the pins. Now let us place the horizontal bands for the body, and we will be using single bands for that. We go all the way to the bottom pins, placing horizontal bands. And this is how our layout will look like when the horizontal bands have been placed. You might want to pause the video again and compare your work with the one on the screen. We are about ready to loop the bands, but there are two things that we need to do before that. First, we have to attach the arms. And when you attach the arms, make sure that the hand part is on the top portion of the sleeve or the entire arm piece, and not on the bottom like this. So make sure that the hand piece is on the top portion of the arm piece, and we reinsert the hook into the loops, take the toothpick off, and place the loops on the pin on the corner of the shoulder area. Let's do that for the other arm. Okay, so those are the arms. And another thing that we needed to do was to place the cap bands in the bottom. So to do that, I'll show you two methods for attaching the cap bands. I will be using caramel colored bands for the cap bands, since they will also form the sandals for our figure. And the first method that I would like to show you is freehand. You grab a single band and then wrap that on the hook 3 times. 1, 2, and 3. And then you grab 2 bands, caramel colored bands, and then string those bands on the loops formed by the first band. And then you will form this. And you will place that on the bottom pins. I'll start with the left bottom pin. Okay. Now I've gotten some feedback that some people find it hard to do the cap bands that way. So I'd like to show you another method. We will use the loom for that. You either push down the bands that are already in place, or probably take them off, at least the bottom bands, but pushing them down will be enough. Place 2 caramel colored bands on the bottommost pins, the 2 bottommost pins, and then wrap a single band on the bottom pin 3 times. 1, 2, 3, or however many times you need to wrap it according to the design you're making. And then you go into the cap band and grab the double bands and loop them to the forward pin. Okay? And then take that entire piece off the loom and then replace the loops onto the bottommost pin to form the cap band. So this is an alternate method of making the cap band. If you find the freehand method difficult, you could try this other method, whichever is easier for you. Now we are ready to loop the bands. And just for this center bands in the bottom, I want this piece to be in the loop. So I get it over this bottom pin, and then I loop the bands underneath. And we do that just for the bottom bands on the center. And then we grab these bands from underneath the cap bands, and then we take them out and loop them to the forward pin. Okay, let's do it on the other side. Just these bands, you go into the cap band and into the blue horizontal band. You see that? Okay, you get into the cap band and the blue horizontal band, and then you grab the double bands underneath and loop them to the forward pin. It gets easier when you're past these bottom bands over here. We will just loop the rest of the bands in a very basic manner. Okay, let's do that. And when you get to the shoulder portion, starting with the bands on the sides, just grab them from underneath and then loop them the usual way and loop them over the arm pieces. Like so. And and then you grab the center bands and loop them to the forward pin. Now we work on these diagonal bands. You grab them from underneath all those heavy layers of bands. You're grabbing for these bottommost bands. There are two of them. Get them out of that thick layer and then loop them to the pin on the center. Same goes for the other side. We're grabbing these bands over here. Go into the thick layers of bands. Grab the two bottommost bands and loop on the center pin. Then from there, we grab these bands over here. Go into those bands in the middle and then grab the bottommost ones and loop to the center forward pin. Now when we get to the face area, because we would like these gray bands which will form the beards to show, we will start looping with the center band. And if you remembered what we did when we were placing the bands, this band was placed last, and so it will be on the top of the layers. So when you grab it from underneath the neck band, it will form a neat tear drop shape, which means we looped the right bands. And then we grab the next bands that are on top, and in my case it would be these bands, and loop to the side. And then we go to the other side, and you will see the tear drop shapes that have been formed, and that indicates that we looped the right bands in the right order. Now we loop the rest of the bands. Oops, I missed this one. Okay, and lastly, we loop these diagonal bands on the top. We loop them from the sides to the center pin. Then you grab a matching color band, a single band, and you insert your hook into the top loops, thread the single band into those loops, and then you tie a knot with the single band. Don't pull on it too much so that you don't break it. And this is how our layout will look like when the bands have been looped. Now we are ready to take the piece off the loom, and I make it a habit to use the hook to reinforce the bands, especially the thick layers, so that they won't be stretched out too much. Okay. Especially when you get to the neck areas like this. Okay. And once it's off the loom, just stretch out the bands to get them in place. And now we are ready to add the embellishments, the other details and features to our wise man. I'd like to add a waistband on the figure, and to do that I will be using three silver bands, and I will get that onto the figure. And there you have the waistband for our figure. And I would also like to add a mustache to the figure. I just get a matching light gray band, the same bands that we use for the beard. You will want to fine-tune the placement or the positions for the bands, so you will get the bands that you want to show become more prominent. Okay, now to add the mustache, just pull on a matching gray band, and then we will tuck it in to the bands on the face. Okay, just tuck it in here. And we will have the mustache. It's up to you whether you wanted to secure this. I think if this will be a display piece, it's enough to just tuck it into the bands on the face. But if kids will be playing with the piece, you might want to secure this with other bands and C-clips so that they don't get undone when the kids are playing with them. You can now use this figure as is, but if you could handle more advanced techniques, you could actually add an extension of the headgear like we did with the Hulk tutorial. So let me show you how that's done. I already made one side. Let me show you how that's done on the other side. What you do is to insert your hook on the bands in the shoulder area, like so. Okay, you insert your hook in the shoulder area, and then you grab two single bands, or whatever color you want to use for the head covering, and then you string those two bands into the loops on the shoulder area where you will form your loops. And then you grab the front loops and then grab one of the bands from the head area. I'm grabbing one of the gray bands, and then I get my back loops. So all in all, I have the front loops, the loop from the head, and then the back loops. Then you get a single band, and you will thread that band into the loops that are on your hook right now. Okay, and then you will form another pair of loops. A back loop and a front loop. So we get the front loop get one of the bands from the head or the face, and then get the back loop. So we now have 3 loops on our hook. You grab another single band, and then you string or thread that band through the loops, and you will form another pair of loops. You grab a single band. This time we're grabbing a purple band that matches the headgear, and then you thread that purple band into the loops that you have so far, and then you tie a knot to secure those loops. Okay. And then just insert that band into the headgear. Okay. And then go to the back portion, and you could just tie a knot with the 2 bands, not too tightly so that they don't get pulled to the back, just to secure them. Okay. And you will have an extension of the head covering for your wise man. And then you tuck in these bands to the back, so they'll be out of sight, and they will also be secured. So you stuck them in, and we have the extensions for the headgear. Okay. Now what I do is I grab 2 silver bands, and I place that on the head like some sort of a headband to complete our headgear for this wise man. Okay, like I said, this is an advanced level technique. If you did not want to do it, you could just add the silver bands on the figure that we completed without these extensions. But if you are comfortable with this technique that we just did, then go ahead and add the extensions to the headgear. That's our wise man number 1. For the 2 other figures, I changed the colors in the layout for the first one. You might want to pause the video to see what colors I used, or you could come up with your own color combination. To make a headband for this second piece, I made a chain of double loop bands, alternating the caramel colored bands with the orange colored bands, just to keep the monochromatic color combination for this figure. So I made a chain of double loop bands. I just went from the top to the bottom. I think that would be 12 loops total. Okay, I secured this end with a toothpick, and then I looped the bands. Then I pulled the piece of the loom, and I used the end bands to secure the other end. Okay, I tied a knot. I just looped it back to tie a knot. To secure that. Then you get a headband, and then I just place that headband on the top of my wise man's head. Okay, just make sure that this end band is secured, and then you tuck it in to the back of your figure. Just keep on tucking it in until it is neatly secured. Okay, so that gives our second wise man a different headband. For the third figure, I use a different layout for the bands so that I could have a pointy headgear. And the way I did that was to place the bands with diagonal bands on the top pins, and then from there I placed vertical bands on the sides, and then diagonal bands from the second pin from the top at the center going to the sides. And then I did that on the other side as well. When this layout is looped, it will form a pointier top for the figure, just so there will be some variety with the figures that we are making. And then I went on to place the bands for the face, and this time I used caramel colored bands. And then I proceeded with the placement of the bands as with the other figures. And to loop that layout, we get to the part of the headgear from looping the bands for the face, and we loop the side bands to their forward pins, and then we loop these diagonal bands starting from the one that's on top, which is this one for me. We loop them from the center pin to the side pins, and we do that for the other side as well. And then we loop from this side pin to the center pin, and let's do that for the other side as well. Then we get a matching color band, which is a silver band, and then we secure the top loops with a single band. We tie a knot, and then secure the top piece, and we pull that out of the loom. Like I said, when we pull this and stretch it, we will have a pointier headgear for the third figure. I made another one of those headbands with purple and yellow alternating for my third figure, and you will see the variations that I made with this, the different headbands that we used. I did not put a waistband on this one, just to have a variety in the three figures for the wise men that we are making. For the gold, we will be making a simple bracelet with double bands. 3 pairs will be enough. These are double bands, and we cap that with a single band looped 3 times, and then we secure that. We loop that and secure it with a single band. Tie a knot, and then pull it off the loom. Okay. Now you will want this piece to be as squarish as possible. You want it to look like a bar of gold, and a fishtail bracelet usually has corners, and you will keep this piece for attachment to the figure, and that will be the gold for the wise man. For the frankincense, we will be making a censer, and we will be using silver double bands. We place the first double bands on these pins on the top, the center pins on the top, and then from there we place diagonal bands, double bands from the center to the right, and then another double bands from the center to the left. So we are forming an inverted Y. Then we place a cap band on this pin, and that will be wrapped 3 times. 1, 2, and 3. We will loop these bands, starting with this one that's on top. We grab it from underneath the cap band, hold on to the cap band and then loop that to the pin on the side. And we go for this band. And we loop it to itself on this right pin. And then we grab the center bands and loop them to themselves on this pin. So we have formed a looped layout still with an inverted Y. Then we will secure, let me turn this down. We will secure these loops with gray bands. I would have used the silver bands for this, but they did not stretch the way I wanted them to. With the gray bands, as long as you stretch them really well, they're gonna lose their elasticity and they're gonna behave like the hangers for the sensor. So that's what we want. Okay, but make sure you don't break them just to get past the point of their elasticity, and then use the bands that you stretched out to secure these loops. Use one band for each loop. And make a knot. And then secure it tightly. Okay, now you pull the entire piece off the loom. And you will gather the upper portions of the loops together. Okay. You will want to pull out the loops so that they will fold together to meet at the center. Okay. There you go, just even out the stretching. And when you gather the ends of these gray bands, they're going to form the handles for the sensor. And when we place them on the figure, it will look like the figure is holding the sensor, like so. To make the myrrh, which is a kind of an embalming solution, I finally get to use these clear jelly type bands from Rainbow Loom. We are making a bottle for the myrrh. And to do that, we count 5 pins from the bottom, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and that is where we place our first double looped band. Okay, we double loop a band over there, and then we add another double loop band. Then we get 2 of the clear bands and we place them on the next row. Then we get 5 of the clear bands and we place them on the bottom pins. You heard me right. I said 5 bands. And then, to simulate the myrrh itself, the liquid inside the bottle, we are using this burgundy colored band on top of the 5 clear bands. And then we cap that with a clear band looped 3 times on the bottom pin. 1, 2, and 3. So now we loop this layout. We grab the burgundy colored band from underneath, the clear cap band, and then loop it to this forward pin. And then we go back into the cap band, grab the 5 clear bands. Be careful, they slip off easily. You need to hold on to the cap band. Okay. And then loop to the forward pin. Okay. Now you go into this thick layer of bands and grab the double bands that are underneath and loop them to the forward pin. Then go for the double loop band and the next one. And then get another single band and secure those end loops with a single band. Make a knot and then take the entire piece off the loom and just stretch, pull, get the bands in place. You can get a fine crochet hook, insert it into this cap band, and then go into the thick layer and then pull them into place. You will want this burgundy to be inside the thick layer of bands because that's the liquid inside our quote-unquote bottle. Okay, so you want to tuck that burgundy band in. Then you get that off the hook, and then you tuck this band in. Okay, tuck it in, and then I just tuck it into the main piece of the bottle. There you go. And that is our myrrh. Now let us attach the gifts to the wise men figures. The sensor is fairly easy to attach. All you need to do is gather together the ends of the gray bands forming the hangers, and then grab one of the figures and insert a hook onto the handpiece, and then grab the ends of the sensor's hangers and then pull it into the hand, just enough to get it in there, and your wise man will be holding the sensor. For the gold, we kept this band on so that it will be used for attaching. And then remember the triple looped cap band? Pull out one of those loops. And now you have one loop on each side. So what you do is insert the loop into the hand pieces again. Okay, do it on the other side. And then pull. And then the gold bar will be in his hands. And then just tuck in these loops into the sleeves so they'll be hidden. You can use a fine crochet hook for that. Just pull it back in like so. Okay, just hide it into the sleeve. Okay. Do the same for the other side. Just pull it back in. Okay. And then hide it into the sleeve. Okay. And then fine tune the shape of the piece so it'll be more squarish and it will look like a gold bar in his hands. And for the myrrh, you insert a blue band into the back pieces for the bottle. This is where we tucked in the piece at the top. That's the back. That's the part that's not going to be seen. Okay. So now you have your band in there, and you will need a toothpick for this. Insert one loop into his hand piece. I want to go from the inside of the hand to the outside, and then that's where you need the toothpick for. Okay, just so it doesn't get undone while you're working on the other side. I want to go to the inside of the hand and then pull that other loop in. And then secure it with the toothpick. Okay, so we have the two loops on the toothpick. Now go to the back side of the figure and insert your hook in there. somewhere in the tummy area. Okay, we'll go on to the tummy area and then grab the loops that are on the toothpick. Take out the toothpick and then pull the loops into that spot. And you will have the loops out back. Grab a C-clip and secure those loops with the C-clip. Now you have your figure holding on to the bottle of myrrh. So there you have it. Your wise men are holding their gifts. I made a 5-band wide piece, an expanded triple single, like the ones I used for the sheets or the blankets that were draped over the camel. And I'm going to use this for the capes for my wise man. And the way to attach them to the wise man is to insert a hook from the back side, insert a hook into the shoulder area until it comes out in the front area. And then you get one of the bands securing the cape piece and pull it into the figure until it comes out the back. Do the same for the other side. Go to the back side of the figure, insert the hook until it comes out the front side. Okay, and then you get the band that's securing the cape piece and pull it into the figure. So it will look like this from the back side. Now hold on to the loops on the back and then flip the cape piece over. Okay. And then pull in the ends and then tie a knot with the bands securing the cape. Not so tightly so it doesn't pull into the figure. I usually double the knot, a basic slip knot, like tying your shoelaces. Okay, and then there's no need to tuck this in because this will be covered by the cape anyway. And there you have it. The cape is attached to the piece. And I made different color pieces to match the color combination I'm making. And look at the way that I varied the features on these wise men figures. The headbands, the shape of the headbands, the color of their skin, the color of their beards. This will be kneeling in the nativity arrangement, and this did not have a waistband on it. I did not even put an extension on the head covering. In short, I did my best to vary the features so they don't look like they're wearing a uniform or something. It just makes for an interesting set. So there they are, the wise men for the Nativity series.